Sheriff Johnson is here this morning and picked up the paper. First of all, was it raining or anything when you came in?
No, it was not.
You came in early this morning. You must have been up early.
Every morning.
Every morning. Still playing golf and all that stuff?
No, I haven't really played golf in about 5 years.
You're kidding.
No, I kind of gave it up.
Did you? I did too. But you were a good golfer. I was never a good golfer. You just gave it up, huh?
Just kind of gave it up.
Wow, that's amazing to me. The other day, I went out on the porch, I got the newspaper, picked it up, and screaming headlines on the front page that there seems to be a little bit of a problem with the commissioners cutting your budget. And ironically, that day, Dan Claypole, the county commissioner president, was in on that day. And what happened here? I mean, maybe you could explain this better. I need your side of the story.
Well, it just seems like every year the sheriff's department seems to get the short end of the stick, in my opinion. We take a look at the budgets certainly every year. I think we run a great operation, and we're certainly keeping the costs down through the years. We had a department head meeting about a month and a half before the final budget, and they told everybody what they wanted to stay at the $20 million, and they had requests for 21 something. And I was the only one that spoke up at the end and said, listen, I like their concept, but they needed to understand that me as sheriff and the Ashtabula County Sheriff's Department, and even if there was somebody else as sheriff, you cannot run that 24/7 operation with the same amount of money each year or less, because the cost of doing business goes up. We are lean. We've lost a lot of people over the years. We're lean. We generate money to offset our costs. And we are actually running that sheriff's office in the 4 million bracket for years. Mm-hmm. Even though they're saying that there's 5.2, we generate a lot of money that goes back into the budget from programs that I had brought in that are not mandated.
How do you know? Can you explain that, Bill?
Well, we have the federal prisoner program. We do this. The CCW, they finally straightened out after 10 years, but we do web checks. We do the phones in the jail. We have commissary. We have programs that are in the facility that we do with our particular budget that bring back money to the county. Okay. And we get, like the federal prisoner program, monthly we send them a bill, it comes in, that money goes directly back into the general fund. But it comes out of my budget originally. Right. It doesn't get reimbursed. So that operation has really offset the cost and kept it down considerably.
Now, wasn't it about 4 or 5 years ago when there were cuts made? You had to cut some of your employees and deputies, and there was a major problem as far as covering Ashtabula County.
Right.
Did that come back?
Well, what we did is, yeah, there was a major cut to balance the budget. We cut jail, we cut road deputies. Everybody that was laid off, and then came back. Mm-hmm. What we didn't do, though, is replace people that retired, found other jobs, and unfortunately we lost a couple that died. So we are down considerably. When I took office in 1993, we had 112 employees.
Wow.
We're hovering around 70 right now.
Wow.
I'm pretty proud of the fact that operation has kept the costs down, and the statistics that we do are going up.
Right.
My biggest bone of contention is we never get credit for what we're bringing in to offset. And I'm a firm believer that if you show that the sheriff's department spent this amount of money and we're bringing back in that money, that's what it actually costs the taxpayers. It's not what they originally give me. And by the way, I should add that when we get our money, right, it's on paper. they don't wheelbarrow $5 million, and that's a lot of money to people.
Right.
But we have a huge operation. We do all the prison transports, all the local court runs. We handle calls. We do all the civil. We do all the subpoenas. And our jail is close to $3 million to run the jail out of that $5 million.
Wow.
It's a huge operation. And if you take a look at the other counties that even surround us, even though their budgets or their income is more,
Right.
We're way, way, way behind them. So I think we do an outstanding job. And I do know that I've made some people angry about this because I had brought a lot of things up when it comes to the newspaper. But you know what, Pat, sooner or later you got to stop the bleeding. I think their priorities aren't where they should be. And me as sheriff have an obligation to serve the public and show them that. I actually used their statistics, their numbers,
Right.
their decisions, their quotes in the paper. It was none of mine. And then I voiced my opinion. So if somebody doesn't like what they gave in numbers and what their statements were, that's not my problem. It's kind of nice, even being an elected official, I'm entitled to an opinion,
Mhm.
but I base my opinion on the facts in front of me.
Sheriff, the one of the questions that came up the other day was, last year I think it was in October, you had to ask for more money to get through the end of the year. And I don't know, I don't do this for a living, so I don't know, but is there a way that you could cut back or no?
Well, let me explain that first of all. We had advanced the jail to increase the population in the jail by revamping the gymnasium.
Okay.
The commissioners were on board with that. It was my idea. The commissioners were on board with that. And we decided to do that to drop the waiting line and to keep more people in and be available for space. The reason why it wasn't built in the budget that particular year is we didn't know what the income or what the cost was going to be.
Right.
Inmate medical, we have to take care of certainly the food. We didn't know how many we were going to average. So there was a lot of unknowns. When they had to give me that particular money, they understood that that was going to happen. It wasn't that I over budgeted, we didn't know what it was going to be. The ironic part about that is two things. Number one, they added that onto this year's, like me taking a loan. I mean, which
Yeah.
I think is absolutely wrong.
Dan said that the other day, they took away from your next budget.
Which
right?
is, I'd like to know any other county that does something like that. It's a loan. And you know, conveniently, they'll talk about how they take care of the sheriff's department by giving me $250, but they didn't talk about the $189,000 that I gave them back 2 years prior to that when I paid for the cars. and that's what I'm trying to say. This is all numbers. Listen, my department is a very transparent department. I'm there every day at work. If anybody wants to come in there and look at these numbers on what we do, I will sit in front of the entire county and debate with them. We can maneuver these numbers around all we want.
Right.
They can't. But my numbers are what we do in that particular operation. There was a quote where on the carryover money. Well, that carryover money, that's misleading. Well, my numbers aren't misleading. My numbers are there. I based it on their numbers. I don't know why anybody would say that they're misleading, for one thing. If you don't have that money, you don't. Personally, I think to make this correct and to keep the jail at full strength and what we currently have, I'm not asking for more people, even though we need them. I think that could be done. Now, maybe some of their projects, which me as sheriff think aren't as important as my particular thing, that's, you know, certainly that's my
Well,
opinion.
you're defending your own. That's
Absolutely. But I think the public what would the public think of me if I think, well, I'll just let them just keep cutting the sheriff's department without
say anything.
explaining where the money is absolutely going.
Right.
Certainly they have the authority to do that. And when they make a comment that they give everybody a lump sum and they can spend it where they want, I can show you in this where they went right down every line item and just cut in overtime. And then a quote from Mr. Claypool is a good example, and here's my quote, I remember it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He said I could do better on the overtime. Well, let me explain something about the overtime. We spent $172,500 on overtime. That's when 911 dispatchers are off. That's court subpoenas I don't control. And the jail when we have something to do, never mind the major crimes. So I think we curbed it pretty good. Ashtabula City Police, and I don't run their operation, there was $396,000 in overtime.
So how much did you have?
$172,500.
Okay.
Here's what's so unique about that. $43,000 of that was dedicated to the federal prison, the federal prisoners, to run back and forth to Cleveland and stuff.
Okay.
That money comes directly out of my budget, okay? And that money goes directly back into the general fund. It doesn't cost them, they get more federal prisoners, and there's revenue there. So he is partially right when he said I can control it. I can control it. I can quit doing that, and then they lose the revenue. See, they don't want to tell you the facts of what the sheriff's department is actually doing. Am I angry? Yes, I am. But you know what? I have no problem with that. These are the facts. And I think the sheriff's department does a great job. If they want to spend their money the way they want to spend it in their particular profession and they have the authority to do that, they can do that. But it's my job to show the public that I think we're getting the short end of the stick.
You know, Billy, in the story that I read the other day, that jump part of the story, the part that went inside the paper, you mentioned, it kind of bothered me in a way, you mentioned that you might have to let some prisoners go to free up, which isn't good for a guy like me that tries to keep straight and narrow, that you're going to let these guys out.
Well, let me straighten that part out first. First, I do not have the authority to let them out.
Okay.
I have to go through the judges.
Okay.
But I am telling you, with what they did in my budget, that they knew before they left the room at 5.2 that I have to reduce the population in the jail. But they had cut it back enough that besides reducing it back to the 100 to 112 from 150 to 170, that's still not going to make up enough to be able to get it done. See, we got a 1.5% increase in pay, which is a lot less than everybody. They either got 2 or 3%. My department works with me, and we do a lot. And it seems like we're always the ones that get the cut. And we are a 24/7 operation. You know what's really amazing, Pat, to me is, I hear this all the time. Well, you know, the sheriff gets the biggest portion of the budget, and he's got 5.2 million. So does 87 other sheriffs. That's the way it works. I mean, we don't shut the doors. We're not off on holidays. We're not off on weekends. The thing of it is the operation keeps going, and it costs a lot of money to do it. I'd like to be able to work 8 hours a day and shut it down. My budget could be really low. It would be nice.
How do you I guess because I don't understand it, so I'm asking the question. But how do you cut back on prisoners?
Well, what we do is, if somebody is, understand that the county in 06, or the state in 06, when they developed the 4th and 5th degree felonies, to relieve the pressure from the state penal institution, they put the burden on the counties. Bad move, because the counties have less and less money.
Right.
So we really don't have hardly any room for misdemeanors. We might be at 5% out of 100%.
No kidding.
Are misdemeanors, the rest are felonies. It's harder to get the felonies out, but if somebody, for an example, is doing 6 months or 1 year or whatever, and they're halfway done or 3/4, I can go to the judge and say, can we release them, put them on probation, and do community service or whatever to do the rest of their sentence, as long as they they don't
do you actually
misbehave.
have to house prisoners that long?
Well, here's another thing. Since I've been sheriff, when I first was elected sheriff, the county could house a inmate for 1 day short of 1 year.
Oh.
Now it's 1 day short of 2 years.
No kidding.
So they can actually serve almost 2 years in the county jail.
I did not know that.
Right.
And so you have to feed them? You have to.
Well, I mean, we do a really good job on that too. It's actually about $5.79 per day per inmate in food, 3 meals a day. So we do an extremely good job on that.
Yeah.
But when you have a full jail, I mean, you're talking about, if I would get rid of 40 inmates right now, just in food alone, it would be, in a whole year, it'd be about $85,000.
No kidding.
Just in food. Now you got the medical. Now it depends on if they're getting prescriptions and they're whatever the doctor says. We have a doctor that we have to contract with. We have a nurse. We have EMTs and paramedics. These are all state.
I don't think people really realize that.
No, they don't. These are all state minimum requirements that I have to maintain in that jail, because there are inmates have to get certain things, whether I like it or not. That's just the way it's set up. The minimum standards are pretty in-depth.
Wow, I guess I didn't realize this.
Well, a lot of people think that if they come in with insurance, that if something happens to them, you just use their insurance card, they automatically lose that. If they're on Social Security and they get incarcerated and they're in our jail, they automatically lose their Social Security.
They do?
Yes, that's the way it works. It used to be that they were on assistance, we would be able to take that. Now that's changed a number of years ago.
When they get out, do they get back their Social Security?
Yeah, I believe they would get it back once.
You're getting a call here, Billy. Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, Pat, Phil Garcia calling.
Hi, Phil.
How you doing? I'm at work right now. I don't know what you're talking about. But I just want to tell you, last night I did the cabaret event at the high school.
Yes.
They're having it again tonight. What a wonderful show the kids put on.
Really? Good.
They're very good. I had over 100 people there last night.
Good. That's great. That's great.
They do have more tonight because they keep on adding people on, but which is fine. But I just, I give a shout out to the kids there and Megan for the job she's done, and just a tremendous performance. For $15, you can't go wrong with that.
No, that includes hors d'oeuvres too, right?
Right. We had ribs and chicken. And we'll have some Lenten stuff tonight too that won't have meat in it.
Sure. Sure.
But just tremendous show. What talent they have at the high school, and just for people to know. I called in this morning and tell you that.
I appreciate that, Phil. Thank you very much.
All righty. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Bill Garcia, of course, talking about the Disney Cabaret at the County High School cafeteria, which is tonight as well. So come on out and have a good time with that. We're talking to Sheriff Billy Johnson here regarding the budget cuts. Now, one of the big lines that caught my eye, Billy, in that story was you said that, I believe you were pointing your finger at Mr. Claypole, that it was a personal situation. Can you explain that?
Well, it seems like, yeah, I believe that. If he was sitting here, I would say the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't know through some meetings that I go into budgets where him and I totally disagree on what needs to be done. And I believe that his decisions are personal. Now, I have a lot of friends and he has his friends, but there are people that tell me things that makes me believe that it's personal.
No, let me do a little history on this. He worked for the Sheriff's Department.
He worked for the Sheriff's Department.
You let him go, did you not?
Yes, he was a captain. And when I got elected sheriff, I promised everybody a job. I certainly would have. He was welcome too, but certainly not as a staff member. I don't think anybody that comes in there they're going to bring their own staff people.
Right.
He wanted to stay at that. And he thought he could. We went through the personnel board of review, and they said I was right and he was wrong, and he moved on. But barring that, that's been a long time ago. I base my decision in the department what is needed and try to keep the costs down. I don't really care about if we like one another or something like that. Professionally, I try to make the decisions based on that. But I am going to tell you, when I take a look at the budget, when I was the only one that spoke up in the meeting on the department heads and said, listen, it can't be done. I just want you to know that in advance. His comment, I can quote it, I just remember, and it's been a long time ago. I agree with you and I feel your pain. Well, that's not the answer that I want to hear. I'm saying that it can't be done. So can we look at some other alternatives? Give me what I at least spent last year and a little bit more. When they gave me the 1.5%, how they said that all the commissioners, they gave the 1.5% to keep everybody working and
Right.
they do this. Listen, the 1.5% is fine, but if you take it away from the operational expenses and then cut my overtime line item, it's just not gonna work. So that wasn't true for the sheriff's office.
Mhm.
Maybe for other offices, they can get by because they're 8 hours a day and stuff like that, but they know we can't. And when I left the meeting with Janet Disher and Peggy, they knew I could not do that. They knew there had to be some adjustments made at the 5.2.
Right.
And it seems like Peggy and I don't agree on everything, and there's no sheriff that agree with all the commissioners all the time. But she understands that there are certain needs in the department, but she's one vote, and I need 2 out of 3.
Right.
And I certainly have my opinions on why I think it's personal, and even with Mr. Morosky. When we had the huge layoff and we were going out there for the sick because I got cut to the bone.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't like it when I said that he was going to tear down the county, and I think he's held that. But irregardless of all of that, I think that the decision should be made on what's in the best interest of the county, because they're really not hurting me. They're just taking away from the public,
Sure.
in my opinion.
Yeah. I remember those days when they made that major cut here a few years ago, and you guys were struggling. I mean, terrible, because you're trying to cover the whole county, and there could be a break-in over here, a theft over here, a murder. Who knows what's going on?
When we had the double homicide in Harpersfield, we had a lot of people laid off, and it was actually senior staff that handled the whole thing. Listen, I think we all should be part of the workforce, and we are. And I am going to say that I'm really proud of the people. They work with me. In one year, years back, they were entitled to 3%. They gave it back. They said no, and guess what? They got laid off. I just don't think that's right.
Right.
Simply, I don't blame the people for saying, even if they like me, sooner or later you got to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And you know what, Pat? When you look at their budget, and I know what they're trying to do as far as the carryover, and even if they want to say about the 600 and it's 2.4, what they need to correct me, they're still going to have a healthy enough carryover that they don't have to worry about the start of the following year or something like that. And if it gets bad, they can always pull back. But
Let's take this call, Billy. Hi, you're on the air. Hello.
Pat Williams, Ron Richards.
Hi, Ronnie. How you doing?
Hey, you can sit next to an old buddy of mine there.
I know he is an old buddy.
Tell him I got a 69 Roadrunner I want to sell.
I wish I had mine. I'd sold you mine.
Did you guys play basketball together?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Hey, you tell him he does a great job there.
He can hear you. He can hear you talking there, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I won't keep you. I just thought I'd give a quick holler there.
Well, we appreciate it, Ronnie. Thank you, buddy. Okay, thank you. Ron Richards was a good ball player. Yeah.
Really good basketball player.
Yeah. Sheriff, we are in April. We've got a lot of months to go. Where do we go with this?
Well, we're making adjustments as we speak today. We're starting.
You are as a department.
We're starting to work with the judges to reduce the population in the jail.
Okay.
And we're looking at every alternative we can. There's not line items to be switching around here. We're short, so we have to make the adjustants quickly.
Are you short now? Or will
No, we will be short through the course of 12 months.
12 months, yeah.
Yeah, but understand this: the longer you wait to make an adjustment in a 24/7 operation,
right,
the bigger the adjustment has to be, because you got a shorter period of time to make that money up.
Right.
And that was years ago when we had that huge layoff.
Right.
People were saying, "Wow, you have to lay off all them people." Well, they're self-insured, and we don't pay them on unemployment. So you have to do 2 for 1. And the longer you wait, that's what devastated the department, because it was towards the 3/4 of the year there when we did that.
So let's picture that just hypothetically. Say we hit September, October. How would you get through those 3 months if these cuts that you're making now are to balance this out don't work.
Well, I have to by law. The law requires me to balance the budget. Now, there are uncertainties there. For example, inmate medical, if somebody gets a heart attack and they're incarcerated, we send them, we get that bill. So you could run out of that line item. What I do on them line items is I average out the course of 5 years, see what we spent, and that's what I put in that line item. But the county is obligated to pay that bill.
Okay.
So the thing of it is we keep control of it. That's why we have a doctor, and that we get, sometimes we'll get people out of jail to let them do their own medical thing through the judges and all that. But it is a very volatile line item that we got to be very cautious. We do a great job because we stay within that average. And I think one year we had a little bit of a problem in that average because we had two people one that got life flight, and they both had heart catheterizations. Big money.
Big money.
Big money. And you have to pay that. So if you put $85,000 in that line item, I think that them two guys used about $65,000 of that.
No kidding.
Yeah. When it was all said and done.
That's what a lot of people don't understand. The taxpayers are footing the bill for these guys that do bad things, and then we still end up paying for them after the fact.
And I mean, that's the law. I mean, that's something that maybe, and even the number of calories that they get in 3 meals, we have to be within that. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't see in the overall operation. When I give talks at leadership is very good. I mean, they go out there, their eyes are bigger than a basketball because they realize all the things that go that intermingle that were responsible to Sheriff's Department that they have no idea.
Oh no, and you know what? I've covered the city and government for a lot of years, and I'm learning more today than I have for a long time. I did not realize all those expenses.
I mean, even with the cars, I mean, we put in well over 1 million miles a year. This is a 720 square mile, 27 townships that I'm responsible for, county. And that makes us very unique because we don't have township police. So when you take all them transports and you take all these calls and then you take the jail and then you take civil, because we serve all these subpoenas and do the foreclosures and the move outs, there's a lot of moving parts in the Sheriff's Department.
We're getting a call. Call back. We'll take your phone call, 593-7181. And if you have a question for the sheriff, he will take it. Hi, you're on the air.
Morning, Pat.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Hey, I'm wondering, like me, I'm on Social Security and at my main spot. I can't work because I had to retire. And my wife, too. She's had heart attacks and I've had seizures. Now, I get Social Security, and the sheriff and the police department, they all want money. And I do, too. But every penny that they take for their wages and stuff like that, that deducts my Social Security because I'm paying taxes on my property. And the food keeps going up, the gas prices keep going up. What am I supposed to do? I cut back on everything I can. But I can't cry about it because the money's not there. My daughters have moved out of the state. And my family, my granddaughters now have moved out of state. The county used to have, about 20,000 people in this town?
15, probably.
15? And what do we got now, about 8 or 10?
Probably.
So there's all them people that we ain't got no money. Now, the 8 or 10,000 people now have got to take over what 20,000 people used to do. And it can't be done. We're not leaving, we're not having jobs here. You got to have jobs before you can pay anybody else and pay your bills. I'm having trouble making my payments just like anybody else. But that's coming out of my pocket, and I can't afford it. And nobody in this town or in the county or the state can afford it. It's, senior citizens. So anyway, that's my view. And Pat, you have a good day, and you guys stay next to the fire.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Bye. I'm not sure what the point was.
Well, I mean, I share certainly his concerns. Everybody is less. I guess the main focus here is If you want an agency, a police department, it costs money to do it. So now we got to get back. If there's not enough money, how do you prioritize? Do you keep them on the top of the list, or you keep them in the middle? And you know, the state is actually, and we'll take the state penal institutions for an example. When they put the 4th and 5th degree felony and they're doing this and making changes here and getting people out, they want to get out of the incarceration business, jail business. They want to put the burden on the counties and the taxpayers. And unfortunately, that's just the way the world has changed. But everything goes up, and then when you want an operation, you know, most people, I understand that, you know, when you take an ambulance and a fire department and a police department, a sheriff's department, you don't use them sometimes in your entire life. But when you want them, you better hope that they're there.
Absolutely.
Because that's what's going to protect you. And I think if they did a statistical workup in any county, I think safety is going to be right up there on the top of
it. Would be on my number one list, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, let's digress just a little bit here. You've been on the show before, and you mentioned how bad the drug situation is in this county. And I see it every day with the police reports just here. Obviously, it's got to be a pretty tough racket to be in to try to keep up on this sort of stuff. And I imagine that's what's spiking the bills up as well in your department.
Well, there's no doubt about it that, 98% of our calls are drug related.
Is that high?
98%.
Wow.
I mean, some kind, whether it be alcohol or meth or heroin or prescription drugs. When these people get addicted, they'll do anything and to get the money to do it. We arrest them, and then it takes medication to get them off that, you know, that high. You just can't set them in there and cold turkey. 'Cause we're responsible. You know, another thing about the jails that make it on a minimum standards, we have to separate some people. If they have a medical problem, they have to be separated from them. If they're in protective custody, such as a person that is incarcerated waiting for trial because they're a child molester, we can't put them because if they get beat up or killed, it's our responsibility. We get sued. We have to separate some of them that are involved in the same crime because they start communicating, getting their stories together. There's a lot of things that go on within the jail, every jail, not just mine, that create a real problem as far as finances go for any county, any state, simply because of the minimum standards.
Morning, you're on the air.
Hey, Pat, you know, this is Dennis.
Yeah.
Hey, the other day when you had Claypool on there, you should have waited a day, because in yesterday's paper, in our opinion, you know, they got some of the stuff that we should have been asking him. You know, like the $50,000 new website, all the bonuses that they've been getting down there. Yeah, they must be partying big time on them bonuses. And all these travel expenses, and I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, and these are the questions that we should have been asking Danny there.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have been privy to that, but those are good questions if that be the case.
Yeah, I mean, they hire one person to go around collecting the bed tax. Yeah. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, these are the questions that we should have get Dan. I mean, we should have had these came on there. And then he could explain all this wasted money. I mean, it sounds to me like wasted money. Pay for yourself, Sheriff.
What's that? I'm sorry, Dennis, couldn't hear you.
Huh?
We couldn't hear you, what you said.
I asked the sheriff who pays for his cell phone.
Who pays for your cell phone?
I pay for my cell phone. There's nobody in the sheriff's department that allows the county to pay for their cell phones.
Yeah?
And mine rings quite often in the middle of the night. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, you know, these are the questions that we should have been asking them, because there's a lot of wasted money, it looks like, with the travel expenses and all that. I mean, I don't know. It's just gonna get worse, that's all.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. Hey, isn't there nothing in the Obamacare about prisoners, for their medical?
To be honest with you, we are looking into that, and we're seeing if that's going to be an assistance to us. We are looking into that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, we are looking into it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Dennis
you.
Toth out in Sheffield calling in. Pretty much out of town at the time, but Billy, I appreciate you coming in. I wish you'd come in more often because I learn a lot from the stuff that you reveal here. I had no idea about a lot of
I
this stuff.
appreciate you having me, and I just want the public to know that I go to work every day. I'm not something special, but we're very transparent. If they have a question, I will show them. There's nothing that we're hiding here, nothing at all. And I think that even the last person's question, what was brought up, I brought up. And I think that that's what making people angry. I just think that even if it's a necessity, I don't think it's a priority, in my opinion. But again, I'm the sheriff of the county, so...
I must have missed that letter to the editor. I did not see that.
That was yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
The documentation that I requested was all there, that documented everything. And, I guess that there was a comment that Mr. Claypool made about where, well, some people get mad when they get, and they're frustrated.
Right.
He's right on that. He's absolutely right. But I just believe that calling it the way I see it is the way that it should be. And I want everybody to know that is at least listening to this is, listen, I understand there needs to be a carryover. And you can't take all your money. And I don't want all the money. What I want to do is just to get treated fair, try to get what we spent last year and a little bit more for the extra cost, and give the best services that I can to the public. And when you go backwards because they're saying, well, you borrowed that money that you knew was going to be when you have a carryover, is just wrong.
That was going to be my last question. Since the loaning deal that happened last October, that cut into your funds for this year.
Sure,
obviously.
that's what they said.
You're
But they never told me it was a loan.
And you're behind the 8 ball already before you even get started.
You're absolutely right. And that's my argument. Nobody ever said that we're going to loan you this money. In fact, to be honest with you, they had money set aside for the cars, and then all of a sudden we didn't get them, and they blamed the judges because they took the money. Wait a minute. All right, if they took the money for the cars, why am I in a loan from the previous year? I could sit in front of anybody and ask that particular question, and maybe people get mad because you're telling it like you see it. Show me where I'm wrong. Nobody told me that was a loan. They knew it was going to be additional. We didn't know how much,
Right.
But they knew it was going to be additional money. To say that it was a loan and took it off of this year's budget, and you already put me behind the 8 ball before, and then say on the other breath that, well, everybody got their percentage, we're keeping everybody working, and who got 2 and 3, and the sheriff's department got 1.5, and okay, you're all right. And then leave the room and tell me, we know you got to make adjustments. It just doesn't make any sense.
The phone was ringing. Call real quick, and we have to let Billy go. He's got a lot on his plate today. But if you call real quick, he will take your call. Hi, you're on the air.
Oh, thanks for taking it.
Sure.
Number one, I'm glad I don't want to ever run for sheriff,
I don't blame you.
but the mandates that you have for the prisoners, for their recommended meals, so on and so forth, free medical, so on and so forth, the people that made those laws and set them parameters, the taxpayer pays for that.
Correct.
The taxpayer doesn't get free medical care. I bet you most of them don't get the recommended calories per day. I mean, it almost makes you want to break a window so I can get in there and have something to eat. I mean, it's not fair. And it's the same people that make those recommendations or set the limits that also raise the taxes to pay for it. So we have less, so they have more.
Yeah.
I can't afford to take a 30-minute shower and empty the water heater. Somebody else can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the sheriff does a good job, and there's more out there than he can handle. In fact, why the state wouldn't say, you know, like take the National Guard to clean the drugs up one county at a time. Help the sheriff out, give him a couple of hundred National Guardsmen, and clean out the drug dealers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a horrible problem. I'm not horrible.
Yeah.
But you can only do what they give you, and I don't think it's fair to you either. You know, thanks for listening.
Thanks for your comments. Okay, here's a endorser there.
Yeah.
Sheriff, I appreciate you coming in, and please stop back.
I'll do that.
This is going to be an ongoing story for the rest of the year.
I think so. I think that there's things that are going to happen throughout the course of the year that certainly will be in the headlines.
Oh, I think so.
I don't really care for that too much. I do like programs like this, and like I said, I take the whole county, even the ones that maybe don't disagree with me,
Mm-hmm.
don't like me. I like to be able to tell them what we absolutely do and let them see what we do
Yeah.
with the money that we get. And let me tell you something, Pat, I'm proud of the fact I got great employees, but I'm proud of the fact of how we keep the costs down. And they perceive it in the newspaper like I'm out of control. That is so far-fetched and so wrong that it's unbelievable, especially the loan thing. That's the first I knew about it. Of course, that's not the only time I ever learn about what they're doing over there. I have the media come over to my office and ask me things. I have no idea about it, but they decide to pass it and don't tell me to my face.
Do you run this year or next year?
No. I'm actually in for 3 years now.
3 years. Are you going to continue?
You know, I haven't ruled that out. I still like my job.
Yeah.
And people, and I have my time in. I love the people that work for me, and I like to serve the public. I go to work every day. I don't even have to, because
Right.
a lot isn't that. But I still like it. So, and I'm healthy. I don't want to say no, and I don't. I really don't know. But if you would ask me today and I was running, yes, I would.
Well, you know, you and I are about the same age, so you kind of, you don't want to really hang it up if you're feeling okay.
Right, and you know, if I think that our department makes an impact, and you know, I'm proud of that, and I know that someday I'm not going to be sheriff. I can accept that even today.
Right.
And if the people decide that they want somebody else, but right now I have every intention of going again.
Okay. I know you have really good golf outings. I've been in them. Wow. And that corn on the cob is always great.
That corner of the cob is good. Yes.
Thank you, Billy, for coming in.
I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.